Uh, okay, this is actually let's go to the UK for a minute, where this is the next place that there's a big push for a reopen from Boris Johnson, and there's a really good piece in Fair that Brian Mayer, our buddy Brian Mayer, did, where he looked at basically. And in some respects, I mean, again, Bolsonaro is always going to be the outlier because he is an extreme he is a literal neo-fascist, an authoritarian, and, belligerently stupid guy. But he makes the point that, again, Bolsonaro is on a continuum of Trump and of the Republican governors and of Boris Johnson. And he goes in to this, deep analysis, basically, of the UK press war on Jeremy Corbyn and how he was lied about and smeared about and propagandized against, while Boris Johnson was endlessly covered and cleaned up for. Mm-hmm. I want to play this clip. I got to say, I mean, this is a credit where credit is due clip. Piers Morgan rips this Tory minister apart. And this is one of those cases where it's like, I hope that you're watching across the pond, because this is how it's done. And this just is what it is. And almost all of these dynamics, this is a clip by our buddies over at Novara. If you haven't yet, go over there, check them out, subscribe to them. I really, this is about a minute clip of Piers Morgan that are presented by Novara Media.
To witness.
Piers, I did hear your diatribe against the Prime Minister earlier on. What you've got
when you say diatribe, let me explain what my diatribe is. We have, according to the government's own graphs, and you can spin them any way you like, the second worst death toll in the world, and that's just the deaths that we're declaring at 31,000. The real figure, according to any detailed analysis of the ONS figures, is over 55,000 people. It's an absolute national disgrace when you compare it to almost any other country in the world. We've had no testing. Our Deputy Chief Medical Officer said we didn't need testing. It wasn't appropriate, so we stopped doing it, which was a total scandal. We've had no PPE for the NHS frontline workers and care home workers, which is why over 200 of them have died. It's an absolute national disgrace. And when you come on and say, I heard your diatribe against Boris Johnson, the diatribe is because so many people have died and so many people are continuing to die.
That's it.
So, I mean,
wow. So, and again, it's a one-to-one, obviously. I mean, the United States is even worse. And a takeaway from this, to the extent that we can distinguish, and we can make some distinctions between high-functioning Asian social democracies like South Korea, a serious and very impressive communist tradition in Kerala, and even, frankly, of course, continental social democracies in their nation-state policies. Not as a Eurozone project. They're still doing the same stuff where they're squeezing the periphery and the southern zone states. But what Germany is doing, what Denmark is doing, what these countries are doing domestically. And you really can say that even if you start to make distinctions that way of the different countries doing capitalism and doing social democracy in different ways, the Anglo model is taking a major hit right now. Mm-hmm. That even in the context of this extraordinary crisis, the United States and the UK, that have been most fully bought into deregulate, tax cut, privatize, on a continuum, are doing by far the worst. And it makes a lot of sense that the US would be the worst of a developed country, and that the UK would be, running not too distant second.
Mm. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's horrible because we're talking about human lives, but it's just like this makes a crisis and a reality just so clear, because you can understand what's at stake and you can understand the numbers and you can directly compare. Everyone was shocked by this. All these countries, had this massive, world. This is a historical event. On a completely different scale, just in the fact of the power of this virus and how quickly it's spread in modern society, and that you can so clearly see the differences from country to country and how their economic model works, how their functional their government is, how responsive their healthcare system is. It makes it absolutely clear that the United States and the United Kingdom, for very different reasons too, because we have very different healthcare systems, have gone down this path that has made us so ill-equipped to deal with a pandemic that people have been warning about was coming for a very long time.
No, absolutely.
In the most cynical way.
In the most aggressively cynical way.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.